Okay, so we're right back in our editing environment in Notepad. And just a reminder about how you get this environment open. In order to open up your HTML page in Notepad, let me remind you, never hurts to get a reminder, you have this HTML, whatever you named it. I named it webpage.html, and it has this little icon because Firefox is my default browser. So wherever you save this, it's going to have whatever icon is your default browser is going to be on there. Now, if you double click it, it's going to open up your browser window like this. But this is not your coding environment. This is not Notepad. So how do you open this file in your coding Notepad environment? Well, you have to right click on it. If you're doing this with a Mac, you have to get into your contextual menu like this and go to Open With and then choose Notepad. And if you don't see Notepad as one of your choices here, you go to choose Default Programs and it'll bring up a window like this, and then you'll choose Notepad from here, or if it's not there, other programs and so forth. Once you've chosen it from other programs and you've brought it up, it will always appear as a choice. Okay, so let me get out of that because I already have it open. So here, that is my browser window, and this is my Notepad window. So I have both of them open. So this is my coding environment. I'm always going to have my Notepad in one window and be able to toggle right back over to my browser window. Okay, so that was just a little refresher course on how to be in your coding environment. You do your editing and your work in Notepad, you save it, then you go over to your browser and you refresh, you see the changes. Okay, so now I want to get into the browser like I am here, because I'm going to actually show you how to add some placeholder text so we can see what it looks like to actually have a paragraph of text without typing it out. So if we look at my code here, I've got paragraph tags, what are called P tags, wrapped around this one silly little sentence, hello world. Well, that's really not a paragraph. And I really want to see what a paragraph looks like, or actually maybe even several paragraphs in my code. So I'm going to show you how to grab placeholder text. It's actually called lorem ipsum. And it looks kind of like Latin, but it's not. So it's just garbage filler text. So we're going to go into a browser, bring up a new tab. We don't want to close out of our web page that we're creating. We're going to keep that open. We're just going to open up a new tab. Now, again, I'm in Firefox, so you use whatever browser you're in. And I'm going to type in to the Google search or whatever search, filler text, filler text. I don't know if I spelled that right. I think it's one. Filler text, txt, hit enter, and actually that's filer. I think I was right the first time. Filler, F-I-L-L. Sorry about that. I could go back and brush up on my language arts maybe in high school, perhaps middle school even at this day and age. All right, so we get filler text up, and these are my choice. My first choice, and hopefully your first choice, is called lorem ipsum at loremipsum.com or lipsum.com. If I click on this, it's going to take me there. This is where I want to grab my filler text. Now, we have to be very careful here that we don't just grab willy-nilly any text that pops up, like what is lorem ipsum, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to take that because it's got tags embedded in it. What I want to do is roll down, and I'm looking for a button like this, generate lorem ipsum. I've got several different options I can choose here, words, bytes, lists, so forth. I want to choose paragraphs. I'm going to choose 3. So I'm going to put 3 in the little box there, keep a check for paragraphs, start with lorem ipsum, that's fine. I'm going to hit generate, and it's going to give me nice, clean, filler lorem ipsum and 3 paragraphs. Now all I have to do is grab from here, from the bottom to the top, just that. If I hit Control C, I copy it. I go back to my Notepad edit environment, and I'm going to select Hello World, and I'm going to hit Control V as in Victor, and it's going to paste that. Now look at what it did. It pasted it all, and it shifted it down from the P tag here, and it ends with the P tag here. Now, the way I like to use p tags, I like my paragraph text to be butted right up against it. Again, the browser doesn't care about this line break here or spaces. So if I delete that to bring it right up to there, then I can see there's my start of my p tag. And what I do like to do is I actually like to have line breaks so I can see these a little better between these. It just helps me. And again, the browser could care less. It's still going to render exactly the same, even though I have these breaks in here. Now, I've got my p-text here, and the fact that it wraps around all the way to the edge, I'm not too worried about. I could do an indent thing and move them all over. I'm not going to worry about that too much at this point. I see my p-tag here, and I see that it ends down here. Now, the problem is that's not a paragraph. That's actually 3 paragraphs. From this p-tag to this p-tag is identifying all this as one paragraph. So look what happens when I save this file, save or Control-S, and I go to my browser window, and I go to my web page, and I refresh. Look at what it does. It puts all of that as one paragraph. And I'm saying, well, but in my code, it's separated by line breaks. Once again, it doesn't matter. The browser doesn't see this space at all. All it sees is you got a p tag here, opening p tag, and the closing p tag is here. So the browser says all of this stuff is one paragraph. So I'm going to style it as such, and anything that has more than one space between it is taken out. Now, if I want this to be 3 paragraphs, what I need to do is I need to define a closing p tag here. So /p right caret. Now that's different. Now I actually have I've defined this as the paragraph. But what about this, all this next stuff here? Well, I've got to define that too. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to tab over 4 and 4 more. And I'm going to put an opening p tag here. I'm going to hit delete just to tighten it up because that's the way I like it. Now look what it did. It's got some of its own breaks in here. And I could go through here and I could take out the breaks, but now there's a new break and so forth. I'm not going to worry about it now. I could clean it up later. Again, the browser doesn't care. It's not going to see that line break. But what I need to do is I need to find the end of this paragraph. And what do I need to do? You guessed it. I need to put, that should not be a capital P, bad business. So left caret / lowercase p, right caret. That defines the end of this paragraph. Now I've got to start the new paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a p tag. And I'm going to hit delete to tighten it all up. I'm not going to worry about the line breaks in there. I already have my closing p here. Now watch what happens. What I've done is I've defined a paragraph, opening paragraph tag, closing paragraph tag. So all this is a paragraph. All this is a paragraph. All this is a paragraph. I'm going to save it, Control-S. I'm going to go to my browser window, and I'm going to refresh. And lo and behold, it makes it look beautiful. And we don't see any of those line breaks that are in our code. Those weird line breaks. Well, in fact, after I saved it, it fixed some of them. So anytime you have those, I could come in here and put, look at this. I could put line breaks. Right? But the fact that I have defined it as an opening p tag here and a closing p tag here, if I save this, Control-S, and I go to my browser and I refresh, no change. There's no change in this paragraph because it doesn't read those line breaks. It doesn't read extra spaces. If you're trying to put in double space after a period, like let's do an experiment here. Okay, I've got a period there. I've got 1 space, 2 space, right? So we're going to look for this area right here in our browser window, and you won't have 2 spaces. It just doesn't put them in. So I'm going to say Control-S for save. I'm going to go to my browser. I'm going to look for that class apptent in the second paragraph, which would be right here. And I'm going to see if it put that second space in when I refresh. And no, it did not. Now, you're saying, well, that's jacked up. What if I want an extra space or 2 spaces somewhere? I can't do it. Actually, you can, but you have to code the space in, and that's for another. There's an actual code that you can put in to put in space, coded space, and it will force the browser to create those spaces. But we're not doing that now. What's important is takeaway from this is how to create these paragraph, how to use the P tag to create paragraph text. And one other thing, I want to show you inline styling. So we're going to move into CSS styles. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it goes hand in hand with HTML, by the way, HTML Hypertext Markup Language. So what we have here is all HTML. There's no CSS. There's no styling tags in here whatsoever. Everything that the browser does for styling is all the default browsing. Whatever Firefox says, whenever I see a P tag, I'm going to do this with your text. Whenever I see an H6 tag, I'm going to do this with it, and so forth. Now, what if we want something like this word to be bold? Well, I have to put a style tag around this. I have to wrap this. And in the old days, we could just wrap this with a B. In fact, we still can, but I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to tell you not to do it. I just want you to know about it. In the old days, we would do something like this. We'd do an opening B and a closing B like that, well, with a B in there. And that would be a bold tag. So this word would become bold. So let's see if it still works in this modern Firefox browser. Control save this little experiment. And I'm going to refresh. And I'm going to see, sure enough, it's bolded. But what I'm going to tell you is this process is deprecated, which means that it's being phased out, and at some point, it's just magically not going to work anymore. And in some browsers, it may still not work. There was a new tag for bold, which was called strong. And if we put that in, it's going to do the exact same thing. And believe it or not, that's becoming deprecated. It still will work for quite some time, but I just wrap that in a strong tag, and I come over here and I refresh, and it's still bold because that's either a B tag or a strong tag. What I'm going to show you now is the accepted practice for styling HTML. We do it with what's called CSS styles. So I'm going to take this tag out, and what I'm going to put in here instead is called a span tag. And that's just an empty tag which does nothing but help us contain our styles. So I've got an opening span tag. Let me take that space out just for now. And I'm going to close it properly. I need the same thing. This should be very familiar by now. An opening span tag with the carets around it, a closing span tag with the carets, just a tag, right? Does nothing. If I save this, Control S, I go to my website, I refresh, we've lost our bold, and there's nothing there. Because this is just a blank holder for me to do this. Style equals double quote, and then I want to get inside those two quotes to put something. Style equals, and then I've got a world of variations that I can put in here, all kinds of styling variations, and it can go on and on and on. In fact, I normally wouldn't even put this inline. I would put this as a separate attached sheet with all kinds of styles involved in it and attach it to this. That's for an advanced video later on. What we're doing now is we just want to make this word bold, so I'm going to say the word font weight with a hyphen. And that's the acceptable CSS style attribute or selector is font hyphen weight. If you misspell it, it's not going to work. You need a colon after that. Not a semicolon, but a colon. And then we're going to just type the word bold. All this is lowercase, by the way. I'm going to end it with a semicolon because that is how you separate CSS style attributes with semicolons. The fact that I only have one, I don't really need it. But I always put it in because I might come back and want to add something to this. So, span tag with style equals quote font hyphen weight colon bold semicolon close quote close caret. Now, notice that I have changed nothing about the closing span tag. All of this action happens in the opening span tag. So let's see what happens if I save this code. I go to my browser. We should see that turned bold again, and it sure did. And there's a ton of stuff I can do with it, and we're going to get into those, but I just wanted to introduce you very quickly to CSS styles. So this is a very quick introduction, and this would be called inline CSS styles. Later on, you're going to see linked or attached CSS style sheets. All right, so that's enough for this session. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.